Welcome to the 2021 Multiple District 201C2 Convention. In an unprecedented move, this convention was to be over 4 days and not the usual 3. Interesting speakers were to enlighten us and fellowship events were planned. The gala dinner, with its international theme, promised to be very entertaining, and the light show on the river would have been illuminating and breathtakingly beautiful. Alas, along came the dreaded COVID-19 virus, which has thrown much of the eastern states into health and economic chaos. In the Riverland, there is unease, with residents fearful of the virus entering the state. As a result of concerned deliberation, the hard decision to cancel the face-to-face convention resulted. Barb and I, along with others, were looking forward to this event. However, reality being what it is, the decision to go virtual for the second time in 2 years had to be made. I thank Convention Chairperson Terry Mullen and his team from all over the Riverland for the many months of preparation for the convention that wasn't. On a positive note, gather in a COVID-friendly manner, sit back and relax, enjoy your favourite refreshment, and listen to the messages from our guest speakers in the comfort of your own home. Take part in the business sessions in a new, unique manner and savour the experience. Enjoy the fantastic guest speakers that we plan to welcome face to face, but have agreed to share their thoughts with us during our virtual convention. Barb and I look forward to meeting you via the marvel of technology, and for this we thank Lion Rob Winter for his wizardry in putting this convention together. Hopefully, as the year progresses and the vaccination rate reaches its peak, we will again meet in Naracoorte in 2022. And as you are all aware, the convention, the international convention that was to be held in Montreal, didn't happen because of COVID, but we still managed to go virtual. So sit back, enjoy, and here are some highlights from the international convention from Montreal.
My name's Terry Mullen. I'm a member of the Berry Lions Club and also Zone Chairman for Zone 13 and Convention Chairman for this year's convention to be held in Renmark. First of all, it was decided a couple of weeks ago to cancel the convention. The committee decided that it may be too risky to go ahead with coronavirus knocking on our door in this part of the world, so they made the decision to cancel the convention and obviously save the organisation from some major costs. If we had to pull out a week or two before the convention date, we were going to be up with some reasonable big money, so it was decided to be safe rather than sorry, and we decided to cancel it. First of all, I'd just like to also thank my committee. As you know, these things just don't happen, so you need a really good committee to get this organised, and I'd just like to thank firstly District Governor Daryl Morley for his efforts and the work he'd done outside of this area to get guest speakers and all that sort of thing. Shirley Pedler, Cabinet Secretary, and you all know Shirley, she done a magnificent job. She organised a lot of the events, programs, the catering, sponsors, and put a lot of this together with the help of a lot of our committee members as well. But Shirley was certainly the main background behind putting all this together, and I'd particularly like to thank Shirley for efforts. Also, Teresa Andrews, she was the secretary of our group. She done a lot of work as well. Also, other committee members, Pam and Henry Bendara, Harry DeBott, Alan Maddox, and Graham Edwards. They've all done their bit towards getting this convention organised, and sadly, but right up until when we cancelled, I think we nearly had it 100% organised. We were just waiting for the time to happen, but unfortunately we had to make that decision. So with that, I thank everyone and look forward to catching up with you in the near future. Thank you. Lions International purposes: to create and foster a spirit of understanding among people of the world, to promote the principles of good government and good citizenship, to fund and otherwise serve the civic, culture and social and moral welfare of our community, to assist financially, culturally, socially and morally the handicapped, the disadvantaged and infirmed of the community, both directly and also indirectly, to unite the clubs in the bonds of friendship, good fellowship and a mutual understanding, to provide a forum to open discussion of all matters of public interest, provide, however, that partisan politics and sectarian religion shall not be debated by club members, to encourage service-minded people to serve their communities without personal financial reward, and to encourage efficiencies and promote high ethical standards in commerce, industry and professions, public works and private endeavours. Thank you.
Conventioneers, I am honoured to introduce past International Director Tony Benbow, OAM. Tony served as International Director in 2016 to 2018, representing Constitutional Area 7, comprising Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia and the South Pacific, on the Lions Club's International Board. Tony is probably best known to Lions in our district as the chairperson of the Australian Lions Foundation. He is recognised widely for his business acumen and hard-working yet friendly nature. It is rare we see him without a smile of welcome. At the Multiple District Convention in Canberra earlier this year, Tony was endorsed as a candidate for third Vice President of Lions Clubs International. Should he be successful, it is hoped that he would become the second Australian to hold the position of International President. Tony will share his thoughts on leadership, service and motivation, a presentation which promises to be thought-provoking and challenging how we serve in our community. Conventioneers, I give you Tony Benbow.
District Governor Daryl and conventioneers all. Firstly, thank you, Governor Darrell, for the invitation to join you this weekend, which would have been in Renmark. But as we all know, there was a need to change to a virtual convention, coupled with the fact that Victoria won't let Sue and I out and South Australia won't let us in. So that was another issue for us not being able to attend face to face. So we make the best of everything, and here you have me virtually. A convention is such an important event in the yearly calendar of a Lions district. And even though we're not able to meet in a face-to-face environment, we do need to make the most of it and be able to set the scene for the year ahead, as well as acknowledge what has been achieved by the district over the past period. When thinking of what to say today to you, it does make it hard because you're not with the people, you're not at the convention, you're sitting here in my study looking at a screen and hoping that those listening and viewing won't get too bored with what I've got to say. Looking back over the past 18 months, that one word still stands out: unprecedented. It's been used so many times over the period in public and in the media, by governments, by ourselves as Lions. And we've all had differing experiences. I think from a Lions perspective, for many of us, it has put our Lions involvement on hold or has reduced what we normally would have been doing. Every state and territory in Australia has been affected, and we are still experiencing the impacts of COVID-19 restrictions on us now. The restrictions have varied from state to state and from city to regional areas, and we continue to see this in our various areas now. It has become a way of life for us, and particularly here in Victoria for Sue and I, a way of life for us now too. We've been in it for so long, but we, like everybody else, is looking forward to that occasion when we can get back and do as normal as possible going forward. But we can take some real positives out of all of it. It's given us an opportunity to stop, to stand back and take stock of where we are as Lions. That's at club level, district and beyond. I believe that over this time has now given us a great chance to rekindle ourselves as Lions at all levels and take a different look and a different approach at what we do. We always need to review our focuses, and we need to adapt to the changing environment we're in and look at the support that is needed out there, not only in our local community, but within our own membership as well. When saying about refocusing, you can look at it in many ways, but I tried to keep it close to probably the three areas that we're all very familiar with: membership, leadership, and service, the key focus of our global action team. We all have had different experiences over the past 18 months, but in the true Lions spirit, we have all bounced back, and we are now ready to get going again and with really renewed enthusiasm. I get many comments from members all around Australia that they have missed the normal activities, the fundraising events, and they have missed the fellowship that we get at meetings. These are the things that we really all enjoy. And all situations have varied based on the community that we live in and what impacts that we've experienced during that time. Everyone has been different. One thing that hasn't been missed on is been dealing with the business side of our Lions organisation, and we've continued to be able to deal with that. We've done it via email, via Zoom meetings and phone calls. It really comes down to the face-to-face catch-ups and the times together doing what we do as Lions that we've missed. Travelling to other areas, visiting other clubs and joining in activities and events, which is really what we love to do, and it's always taken a different course. This weekend, of course, is a prime example of what was planned and what has eventuated. But let's hope again there will be occasion in the future we can all be together. As well as the impact on ourselves as Lions, needs in the community have changed as well. And I'm sure over the past 18 months or so, they've increased. But we first must look at ourselves as Lions and members. We need to begin and look at our own membership, particularly our members at club level, and make sure that they're okay and ready to get back from where we left off. Involvements have been very different in areas, and some members may have felt isolated. Communications may have been difficult because not all of us can manage the changes that we've had to adapt to over the period. And this has felt by some and caused them to be less involved. We still need to be aware of the COVID restrictions, and our members' health and welfare must be at the forefront. Each member's own situation needs to be treated with respect, and we need to be supportive in all cases. We use that catchphrase, kindness matters. And at this time, this means not just the community we support, but our own members as well. Getting back to a healthy club membership must be a priority. From there, we can work our way back into areas of supporting our community. We all know that when we have a strong club membership, club works better together. They are supportive of what they're involved in and can do more to help others that need our help. Club operations have had to become flexible over the past year, and many things that we did pre-COVID, which we regarded as traditions, we haven't been able to do over this past period. But you have to ask, has this caused us any issue? I don't think so. We've managed it and we've still operated and we've done it really well. What we have done is we've adapted to the changing environment, which we have for so many years been hesitant about. But yet, over this past few months, we have really achieved a difference. We've been doing all of this, changing and adapting so well. So don't stop now. Let's continue doing that. Perhaps continue to challenge the norm and improve what we do. We all know when we get this right, we can begin showing the community we are a real focus and a force to be reckoned with. What I've said leads into our service aspect and how we interact with our community. In the past period, we've seen many things change in that local area. Community engagements have suffered because we haven't been out there. We haven't been out there doing what we do so well. Service activities, fundraising activities, and being seen. But now This opens up a great opportunity for us to reconnect back with our community leaders, refresh those associations, check on the community needs, and consider what each club can do. Check to see if the priorities in the area that we operate have changed over the 18 months. Are there other needs or new challenges to be considered by your club? Ask those community leaders, local government members, police, SES, and friends of your club what they see are the needs now in the community that you work, and then consider what your club is capable of. Your own local knowledge on what's been happening is so important as well. Sometimes a new focus for a club can rejuvenate the enthusiasm that may be lost. And it's good for all members, but you need to go out there and look. It is really important for us to be seen again as Lions and out there in the community. It may be doing a project, a fundraiser, or just even taking the time to set up a stand in the street or in a shopping centre to show the community what you've been doing. You know, every year we hold Lions Awareness Days over a period. But that doesn't mean that every time that you're out there in the community doing something, no matter what it is, you don't take that opportunity to have that as an awareness day for your club. Use the resources available to promote your club and show the community what it does. Show them what your district does and what your multiple district does. There are so many activities we are involved in, and that I am sure will get the interest of anyone who passes by. Approach them and talk to them about what you were doing at that time. Don't wait for them to come up and ask you. Projects that have a direct local focus is what will get your community interested in. And that may be an opportunity for you to get those individuals involved with you. Get them to join you at your next service project or activity. Show them what Lions is about and the enjoyment that you have serving their community and the benefit that it brings. Don't push the hard sell of being a member first. Involve them, and then membership follows on. It gets you time to see the new potential member as well as they see you as a club, and make sure that there's a real good fit for the two of you. Membership is the key to service, and without the members, we can't serve our community. We cannot provide those in need with the help and assistance. And if we cannot meet those challenges, then it's difficult. But now, I'm sure this is the time to shine and grow. Finally, leadership. Leadership is so important at all levels. And Lions has so many ways to support individuals, club office bearers, cabinet members, and everyday Lions who have an interest to learn and improve. We always need to be looking to give our members every opportunity to progress in roles at club and district level, and then to progress beyond. Succession planning is so important for all clubs, and we need to work on that all the time. Not just when it comes up to consider our elections and we start to think and say, well, who's going to be the next president? Who's going to be the secretary? Who's going to be the treasurer? We need to be doing this every day of the year and looking forward. Club members will drive the future of Lions, and we need to give them every opportunity we can and to allow them to take on something new or different. Our newer members need to think about what they can give to the club as well, and we need to support them, mentor them, and watch them develop. Encourage those that have been in the job for a long time to maybe consider handing over and giving others an opportunity to do something different. Your knowledge being in that role for a period of time can be so valuable as well at supporting others, and you will be better off for taking that opportunity. Become the mentor, become the driver of change, and allow others to learn as much as you have learned. We, as Lions, all have a lot to give, so allow everyone to give what they can. As members of the Lions family, perhaps this gives you something to think about and some actions to consider in your clubs to ensure their health, strength, and community service is strong. Also, there's one aspect I would like to make comment on to you all today, and that is about Lions Club's support of foundations, projects, and other organisations. We have come to acknowledge and say, always look to support your local community first and their activities that will benefit in your local area. For many, that is their prime focus and all that they do, and we congratulate you all for doing it. But when we look further from the local area in supporting, we have other projects or foundations, and it is really important to consider our Lions family projects first, because we know the integrity of what they do and how well they support our communities in the broader extent. When you consider making your donations, make sure you know where your donation goes and what it will be used for. Be wary of donating into what we refer to as the big bucket. These are the general donations to a cause where we have no control on or on the outcome of what you have donated. As we know, many organisations take a percentage of your donations as their administration costs. So the real value of your contribution is never realised. Lions projects and foundations don't do this. So you know that your full donation benefits where you have given it. Raising funds is always hard for all clubs. So spend wisely and where it counts. So District Governor Darryl and conventioneers, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. I hope that I've been able to give you a few things to think about and maybe take back to your clubs, to think about and maybe take on board. As Lions, please keep safe, healthy, and be very, very proud of that badge that we wear. So thank you all for the opportunity. And Sue and I look forward to the occasion when we can be together again in the future, when we can get across the border and catch up again. So from us both, best wishes to you all. Thank you and cheers for now.
Thank you, Tony, for such an inspirational speech. I know that conventioneers, one and all, have an enhanced understanding and knowledge of the enormous contribution that our foundation does for us and how we can contribute to the future success. Thank you.
District Governor Darryl Morley, Conventioneers one and all. I am Barry Stoddart, a member of the Lions Club of Murray-Bridge City, who are very proud to nominate Lion Carolyn Kilpatrick for the position of Second Vice District Governor 201C2 for the year 2022-2023. Firstly, I would like to share with you a little of Carolyn's history, partly prior to her joining Lions. Carolyn has endured a hearing impairment for most of her life, but when her hearing deteriorated, she became a student of lip reading, obtaining a diploma from Better Hearing Australia. From 1996 to 2013, Carolyn was a senior hearing rehabilitation coordinator with Guide Dogs South Australia and Northern Territory. Carolyn also undertook further studies in management skills, Auslan Level 1 and audiometry, gaining a Certificate of Excellence. Carolyn now has 2 cochlear implants. In 2012, Carolyn was the recipient of the Libby Harricks Achievement Award. This is a national award that recognises an individual who has managed their hearing loss, achieving personal success and being a role model to other people also with a hearing loss. Carolyn was inducted into the Lions Club of Murray-Bridge City in March 2001, and since that time has proved to be a very active and respected member of the club. She served for 4 years as club president, where she showed exceptional leadership and organisational skills, together with a great attention to detail. During this time, Carolyn was awarded an International President's Membership Achievement Award. Carolyn is extremely active in all club activities and projects, and in 2017 she was instrumental in creating and establishing the Nighttime Chemo Caps project, with 740 caps being donated to needy recipients. Carolyn has also been very active at district level, where she was the Zone 3 chairperson for 5 years. During this time she received several District Governors Awards, as well as being presented with a Melbourne Jones Fellowship by the 201C2 Cabinet. These were awarded for her excellent organisational and leadership skills, which I mentioned before. Additionally, in 2013-2014, Carolyn was a member of the Global Membership Club Success Team. Carolyn's communication and management skills have been evident in all of her endeavours at both club and district level, as well as in the wider community where she has spent countless hours assisting and mentoring others. I believe that Carolyn's achievements within Lions and the broader community make her an excellent candidate to be a future District Governor. It is now my pleasure to introduce Lion Carolyn Kilpatrick, our club's very worthy nomination for the position of Second Vice District Governor 201C2 for the year 2022-2023.
District Governor Darryl Morley, Conventioneers one and all. To the members of the Lions Club of Murray-Bridge City, a very sincere thank you for nominating me. To Lion Barry Stoddart, thank you for your nomination speech today. I am very proud to have this opportunity to take my next step on my journey in Lions. Professionally, I worked in the field of hearing rehabilitation with a diploma in oral rehabilitation and lip reading for 25 years, developing and facilitating communication skills training courses for people with a hearing impairment, one-to-one individual sessions for people with dual sensory and complex hearing loss, networking with allied health, sensory, community and funding organisations in both Adelaide and rural South Australia. I was also a team member of the Farm Noise and Hearing Network and an inaugural member of the Australian Communication Exchange Consumer Advisory Group. Public speaking at local, state and national conferences. I have been happily married to Roger for 53 years. We have 2 beautiful daughters and 5 grandchildren. And as we travelled throughout South Australia with Roger's employment, I've been involved in many volunteer organisations. These being the Country Women's Association, South Australian Country Fire Service, Brownies, the Cochlear Implant Club, Advisory Association of South Australia, and as an area coordinator with Neighbourhood Watch. Both Roger and I retired in 2013, and we have enjoyed many caravanning adventures. And when Victoria is not in COVID lockdown, we enjoy visiting our daughter and her family. My journey in Lions commenced when I was inducted into the Lions Club of Murray Bridge City in 2001 and has continued at club level over the years, having held the positions of President, serving on our club board, Tail Twister, Lion Tamer, Handover MC, Club Membership Director, Sleeping Rough Coordinator, and our nighttime knitted chemo cap creator and coordinator, and successfully applying for grants for a barbecue trailer and a Lions storage shed. During my time as President, I was appointed Zone 3 Chairperson, completing 5 very memorable years with all 6 clubs attending Zone meetings, where we created a forum for open communication, at the same time sharing many hours of fun and fellowship. It was indeed a privilege to provide support, mentor and problem solve as requested. I came to fully understand the meaning of being a member of a Lions family. As second Vice District Governor, my aim is to work in collaboration with District Governor Darryl Morley and his Cabinet team, the Lions members of District 201C2 and the wider Lion community, to encourage the future development of Lions members by mentoring and empowering others via access to information, education and the sharing of skills and knowledge, which I believe are vital in strengthening leadership pathways. Having witnessed firsthand Lions' professional service provision and high ethical standards, I would cherish the opportunity to take the next step to the position of second Vice District Governor for District 201C2 for the year 2022-2023. I thank you.
It is my privilege to introduce Lion David Horn as a candidate for Vice District Governor of District 21C2 for the year 22-23. I have known David for the past few years when I started working at Hearing Dogs, where he personally mentored me through my cadetship and introduced me to Lions when I joined the Lions Club of Australian Hearing Dogs. David has been a Lion since 2015 when he joined the Lions Club of Mount Barker, where he served as Secretary for 3 years and Vice President before transferring to be the Charter President of the Lions Club of Australian Hearing Dogs. David has been in the assistance dog industry since 2005 when he joined Australian Lions Hearing Dogs as their kennel manager before becoming an assistance dog trainer and then CEO. I am proud on behalf of my club to nominate David to the position of Vice District Governor.
Hello. Firstly, I'd like to thank Marcelo for that kind introduction. But I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank all the members who supported me last year through my election to become second Vice District Governor. I've had a fantastic time over these past 12 months since the election, especially the last couple of months where I've been able to go out and represent District Governor Darryl on club visits down in the southeast and up in the Northern Territory. I will say that through a time that's meant to be really tough, clubs are actually thriving from what I've seen. And I think this is down to clubs focusing on their communities and service activities. It's amazing the different things that clubs have been doing to keep morale up, with a heavy focus on mental health as well in communities. So a big congratulations to all the clubs out there, not just the ones that I've seen, but the other clubs who are doing a fantastic job as well. So on from that, I would like to start talking about what my theme will be eventually as I become District Governor. And one of the things I will focus on, hopefully, if I get support, is building on the change that we've had over the last couple of years. I think clubs have taken it in their stride. We've been faced with this horrible pandemic that has forced us to do things that we haven't been used to. And from what I've seen, clubs have taken the bull by the horns and gone out and gone outside of their comfort zone in taking a look at their activities, changing them to work within a different world, becoming more technologically focused. And, you know, if we looked back a couple of years, would clubs have taken those steps if it wasn't forced upon them? And I think we're in a great position now where we can keep going with that. We've taken those first steps to change, and you know, change is scary. It's tough, but we've been forced to do that. So we should keep going with that. We should look outside the square. We should be innovative with our ideas, and we shouldn't get stuck in thinking that certain things that we tried before and we failed at, it doesn't mean that they can't be improved on and we can get success out of them in the future as well. I mean, there are so many times that we do fail in life and we build from it, we learn from it. And the important thing is that we keep learning as well. So I would like to thank everybody and ask for your support this year in my journey to become first Vice District Governor. And if I do get the support of the members of the district, I do intend to fully support DG Ruth through her year and wish her all the best of luck. Thank you.
Fellow Lions, on behalf of the members of Victor Harbor and Port Elliot Lions Club, I have great pleasure in nominating Lion Ruth Pearsons for the position of District Governor for District 201C2. I'm delighted to once again present you with an overall picture of Ruth and the journey she has travelled over the past few years. Ruth transferred into Victor Harbor and Port Elliot Club in mid-2014 from Kalgoorlie. She has held most positions in the club, including being a popular and trustworthy president. Ruth has often said that being a Lion is one of the most rewarding life choices she has ever made. From a varied working life, Ruth built up a strong commitment in working with many organisations, including starting her own business, the Cold Rock Ice Creamery, which gave her an experience in running her own company and gaining experience in managing a staff of 15 young people, a skill which has come in useful with her journey to become a district governor in 2022-23. Ruth has the ability to get things done, and with her combined and unique talents for both hard work and organisation, she has achieved many exciting goals and events in our community, and which has now expanded into other areas within the Lions framework. Over the past few months, Ruth has been able to visit clubs, bringing a message of optimism during the COVID-19 crisis. Ruth will be continuing to do so into next year. Ruth's husband Colin has retired and stands side by side with her as she continues her journey to become C2 District Governor for next year. He has set aside that next year as a working partner to help her Lions work, travel organisation, and helping to achieve the goals she has set up. Ruth has long demonstrated her passion and enthusiasm to lead and manage any project or challenge, and we, her fellow club members, are certain that she has the ability to manage and lead the Lions of District 201C2 in the challenges that lie ahead with the same enthusiasm and passion. Conventioneers, it is my very great pleasure on behalf of the Lions Club of Victor Harbor and Port Elliot to introduce our candidate for the position of District Governor 2022-23, Lion Ruth Pearsons.
Hello fellow Lions and conventioneers. Well, here we are again, another virtual convention. Not at all what we had planned or hoped for, but we have to make the best of what we've got. COVID is continuing to wreak havoc, as we know, but we're all doing our best to maintain our momentum going forward. Thank you, Chris, for your wonderful endorsement on behalf of our club. The club has been very understanding and forbearing of my erratic meeting attendances as I conduct club visits. I'm very grateful for their ongoing support. As we know, COVID has affected everything and my club visit schedule is no different. I do hope to get interstate to visit the Victorian and New South Wales clubs in the reasonably near future. I had scheduled them very early in my visits, but unfortunately the lockdowns happened quicker. Thank you very much to the clubs that Colin and I have already visited this year. Your hospitality and warm welcome has been very much appreciated. I'm humbled to receive the kindnesses offered by members and I'm meeting new friends. I'm starting training with my international cohort of Vice District Governors. This is via a challenging Zoom program, which is quite interesting. Other cultures have quite differing expectations and management styles with their online meeting platforms, and it's a bit entertaining. 2022-23 looks to be a better year as we manage ourselves going into a post-COVID era, and our Lions and the world, in fact, is very hopeful as we go forward. There is a new membership approach being planned and it's to be launched during the next year, 22-23, and I'm excited to see how this will work and how it can be applied to our district. I am again asking for the district's support to continue my journey to be your district governor. I have been pleased to serve Lions from District 201C2 during my journey so far, and I look forward to continuing to serve going forward into 22-23. Thank you very much from Colin and myself.
Fellow Lions, I'm nominating for the position of Lions Medical Research Foundation Trustee for the 3-year term of 2021 to 2024. I believe in the objects of the foundation, which are to promote, foster and fund research, to conduct education of the public and professional medical communities, to conduct preventative health activities for the purposes of prevention, to conduct any other activity which may directly or indirectly affect or assist with identifying the cause, detection, education, research and management of cancer, cardiovascular conditions, diabetes and chronic lifestyle diseases. I first nominated as a trustee for the foundation 1 year ago to fill the position vacated by past District Governor Rhys Roberts OAM. During the last 12 months, I've gained a lot of experience and knowledge of the operation of the Lions Medical Research Foundation. The foundation identified the need for a risk management document, so I volunteered to compile a risk register and risk assessment for the foundation, which also includes the operation of the Lions Skin Cancer Project. The risk register and risk assessment document has been completed and adopted by the Foundation Board. With the current COVID situation we are experiencing, there is a need for medical research to help us maintain the lifestyle which we are accustomed and enjoyed in the past. If we as a group can assist with further assistance for further research, grants and education, the community will benefit from the efforts of skilled researchers. My past history has been one of committee and board involvement, starting from my youth days when I was a member of the Rural Youth Organisation and represented the Riverland on State Committee. I joined Lions 12 years ago and loved being involved in the community volunteering and helping people. I became involved in the District Cabinet 3 years after joining and have had several roles since, including District Governor 2019-2020. This was a great experience which allowed me to see the bigger picture in what Lions are doing and what they can do in the future. I am particularly passionate about medical research and Lions' involvement in that field. While I haven't been involved in the medical profession, I understand the need for good governance, the need to work as a team, and be passionate in what you're doing while working as a team. I ask you for your endorsement and support for my nomination to the position of trustee to the board of the Lions Medical Research Foundation. Thank you.
Originally built out to sea from Cape Jaffa on the Margaret Brock Reef, the lighthouse was opened in 1872. Standing 41 metres high and known as well as Screw Pile, it was designed to suit the local conditions. The 8-room dwelling accommodated 2 lighthouse keepers and families with enough stores to last several weeks. The Chance Brothers lantern could be seen for a distance of up to 40 kilometres. In the early 1970s, the federal government decided to install an automatic light and hand over the lighthouse to the care of the National Trust at Kingston. The lighthouse was moved to Marine Parade Kingston and opened in 1976 as a museum.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to present to you the financial results of the district for the year 2020-2021 financial year. I would just like to make a few comments on these results, as the COVID situation, as it did last year, certainly affected some of the end results. In administration, overall expenditure was down on what was budgeted. This was due to a number of factors. These were no district convention. Overseas travel for DGE was not paid. Cabinet Secretary training was not held. Incoming officer training was again held online instead of face-to-face. Most of the Council of Governor meetings held online instead of face-to-face also. To offset some of these savings achieved, some expenditure was greater than what was budgeted for. These were public relations. In conjunction with C1, who organised the deal, radio advertisements were done to promote Lions. Cost to our district was $4,500. One has to ask, was it worth it? I cannot comment on this matter. DG bannerets, pins. This included expenditure which related to previous financial years coming through. On the activity side, not much to talk about here, other than to say receipts nearly balanced with expenditure. Operating deficit was only $858. One comment I would like to make was on Youth of the Year. Receipts from clubs totalled $500, while expenditure was $2,363. It does certainly seem that more clubs need to participate to make this work. Well, short and sweet, that's it for me. I hope to catch up with you all soon. Keep well and safe.
District Governor Darrell, conventioneers, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, it gives me great pleasure to provide the annual report of the Lions Medical Research Foundation for the year ending June 30th, 2021. The foundation proudly remains a joint initiative of both C1 and the C2 districts. For those, just if you could allow me to espouse that our vision, mission and purpose is to promote, foster and to fund research and education into the prevention, detection and cure of disease. And through our work, we endeavour to strengthen our communities, enhance everyone's quality of living, create positive interactions for all and foster a greater well-being for individuals and the community. For those of you who may not know our history, the foundation began in 1973 as the Lions South Australian Miss Personality Quest. And that went through for a number of iterations and made a bit of money. And then in 1998, it was felt that it should broaden its focus and changed into the Medical Research Foundation. And so, and we've continued on thus. So we have three main activities that we're involved with. And one is the ongoing provision of PhD scholarships. We do that in relation to the universities. The second activity is the skin cancer screening activity. And the third one is that we engage either via sponsorship or direct engagement with public or research funded lectures and conventions. And we support those as best we can. And so if we take the first one being research, the intent has always been from our foundation to provide PhD scholarships for South Australian researchers, for South Australian research to be conducted here in South Australia and for them to continue on their research here. So I don't know that any other organisation does that. We're quite proud of that. But the research in this past year is, it was a COVID year and the university suffered a fair bit, but we were able to continue to supplement two existing projects, and so much so that one of the recipients was awarded this year the South Australian Young Achiever in Science, Technology and Medicine. So that was a great achievement in terms of one of our fundees. The second recipient became a finalist in the South Australian Young Investigators Award, mainly through her work in gastroenterology. So we were very, very pleased and proud about that. And then for this current following year, we're negotiating with Adelaide University for 3 more new scholarships. In addition to that, we've also funded what we call a postdoctoral grant, and this is in a new and exciting collaboration with the UniSA. And the project will analyse really all the data we've received over the last 5-6 years with our skin screening project. So we have all this data sitting there, and we're going to make an attempt to try and put it all together and get something meaningful, which will be able to influence research in skin screening right around the world if we can. With the skin cancer screening project this year, obviously COVID got in the way, but we're still able to do some screening. But nonetheless, we kept on going with the development of our screening programs in terms of screener education and some new drivers and support staff. And so much so now that we have a minimum standard for screeners now, so they have to go and do what we call a postgraduate health certificate at Bond University. And this is now deemed to be a minimum standard now for all screeners. Costs money to put people through those programs, which the foundation is paying for, but it's a minimum condition which goes across right across the country in all our screening programs. And I'd like to say and note that all recipients of the screening programs remain both grateful and impressed with the project, and very, very ever so grateful when we've picked something up. In terms of results, the results again remain consistent in that well over 20% of those screened end up being found to have a lesion that was a suspect lesion. And then, of course, within that group, there were many that were deemed to be potentially life-saving, life-threatening conditions. And so it once again showing that the stats and the percentages remain the same. In addition to that, the screening project has now become a Lions national collaborative project, whereby 2 or 3 times a year we get together by Zoom with the Western Australian group and the Victorian group, trying to establish consistencies right across how we do this in terms of helping the community. And also wish to report now that there's really strong interest now from New South Wales, Queensland, Tasmania, and even New Zealand, who want to become involved and set up their own screening projects and groups. So that's the activities. In terms of our governance of the foundation, I can pleased to report that we now have full DGR status for all our projects and all our activities, and so that's fantastic, whereas prior to that we had partial ones. The second item of interest for many is that to become compliant with all the charity authorities and the legal authorities, our constitution has had to undergo a bit of a revision, and with that revision comes the need to make sure that that constitution is contemporary and is skill-based, which is the requirement these days for most boards. And then our third component of that is that we will be bringing on and utilising more expert and specialist advisors to advise us from a side capacity. So we're very active and continue on to evolve as an organisation. Financially, I'm very pleased to report that the Foundation's finances remain very stable. I'd like to thank all those that have contributed, both members and member clubs. It's fantastic, and it allows us to continue on to do what we do. We did return a surplus, irrespective of COVID, and you'll be pleased to know that our surplus funds remain very conservatively invested. Within these convention packs somewhere, there should be some audited financial statements for you to view. And with that, at the appropriate time and place, I sort of like to move that these audited accounts be adopted as appropriate. In closing, and there is, for those who read the report in full, in its written one, I have made a number of thank yous to a whole variety of different people, so you can read that in that report. But I implore to all of you, and thank you again as members of your clubs for your ongoing participation and support. It's been extraordinary and fantastic, and allows us to continue on those projects and make a difference. Please help us to continue Save Lives, and your ongoing support is ever so necessary. Thank you very much again. I pray you have a wonderful convention. Thank you.
Notice of Motion 1, submitted by Lions Club of Batunga Country, the subject continuation of the Carolyn's ChemoCap project. And the motion is that District 201C2 continues the district project and appoints the Lions Club of Batunga Country Incorporated to promote the Carolyn's ChemoCap project, which enables patients undergoing cancer treatment the opportunity to regain their self-esteem for a period of 3 years, commencing July 1st, 2022 and expiring 30th of June 2025. An explanation and further details have been forwarded to clubs and will appear in the convention booklet sent to delegates. Nominations for the District Governor Team 2022-23. Nominations, as per the election speeches made by candidates earlier and distributed to clubs, have been received by the due date for consideration at the 2021 District Convention. The nominations for district officers and representatives have been reviewed and approved by the District Nominations Committee. All concerned have consented to their nomination. Shirley Pedler, Cabinet Secretary. There is one candidate for each of the positions of District Governor, First Vice District Governor, Second Vice District Governor and Lions Medical Research Foundation 3-year term. Each nominated delegate of a club in good standing and each past district governor in our district will receive a ballot paper indicating the names of the candidates for office in the district and each candidate for district representative. For each position, the delegate or PDG is encouraged to exercise their vote by marking the ballot paper either yes or no next to the name of each candidate. Please refer to the ballot paper for further instructions. Note that a candidate is required to secure a majority of the votes cast by the delegates voting in order to be declared elected. For the purpose of such election, a majority is defined as a number more than 1/2 of the total valid votes cast, excluding blanks and abstentions. Ballot papers for the adoption of motions, including election of officers and district representatives, and the convention booklet containing the full notice of motions and audited financial statements will be provided directly to nominated convention delegates and to all past district governors in the district. Delegates will have until the 30th of October 2021 to return the ballot by post or email. Nominations to host the 2023 District 201C2 Convention. A nomination has not been received to host the 2023 District Convention. Lion David Horn is currently in discussions with several clubs and advice will be forthcoming shortly regarding how any nomination may be considered. If your club or zone is interested, nominations to host the 2023 District Convention will be considered by the District Cabinet in consultation with the District Governor team.
Conventioneers, it is my pleasure to introduce Lion Rob Orlemans. Rob Orlemans has held the position of Executive Officer of Lions Australia since 2006. After graduating with a Bachelor of Economics, Rob managed and developed a number of not-for-profit organisations, primarily in the youth service sector. From 1996 to 2006, Rob worked as a senior manager in local government, responsible for the planning and development of a broad range of human services, including community service and facilities, sporting and recreation services, cultural facilities, and the management of public land. Rob's career and interests revolved around organisational change and development. In 1989, he was awarded the Law Foundation of New South Wales Travelling Fellowship to study youth crime prevention services in Europe. He is a Fellow of the Australian Institute of Company Directors, a Melvin Jones Fellow, and is honoured to have twice received the International President's Leadership Medal. Rob will share with us an update on the activities of the multi-district and some of the key initiatives planned for our organisation. Conventioneers, please welcome Lion Rob.
Oh, hello. Sorry. This working from home business can cause a few problems as we move on with things. Just wanted to say thank you for inviting me to join your virtual convention. It would have been fantastic to come down to Renmark. I was really looking forward to it. But unfortunately not this year, but maybe another time. Today I'd just like to fill you in on a few little points about what's happening at the multiple district at the moment, and some interesting things that you may not have heard about. Called our multiple district update. Talk a little bit about the office, a little bit about our programs, and a little bit about that nasty word COVID. So let's make a start. So we've had quite a few changes at the office this year, or over the last couple of years. So there's largely a new team that is staring you in the face there. I'd like to introduce Max Shirley, our Finance and Operations Manager. He's the key person that looks after our office, and he's also an accountant. Max was pretty instrumental when we had a fire about a year ago at looking after us moving it from our office to a temporary office and back again, and keeping things running as smoothly as we can. And just a message for you all, that we've been through a flood in my time and through a fire. We want no more disasters in our national office, COVID willing. Of course, you all know Elise. Elise is the person who will normally speak to you when you call the office and answer the phone. Elise is in charge of our customer service area. She deals with inquiries, internal and external. She's our key communications person to keep things flowing. And she also does a lot of our design work over the years, things like the convention handbook and things like those little posts that you'll see on social media from time to time. Next up is Julie Crisp. Julie started off in our admin floating role, helping out with the finance area and helping out with club supplies. After Isabel has moved on to greener pastures, Julie has stepped into the club supplies officer role and is doing a fantastic job. Michelle, who was looking after our finance role, has moved on to greener pastures as well, and you can see Anna Lee, who's joined us and is doing a great job looking after the myriad of finance work, supporting Max, of course, in that role. In the middle, you'll see Emily. Emily's just joined us. Emily is a PR and media student at Newcastle University and is our casual admin support officer. So Emily helps out in a range of roles, including club supplies, including a bit of work in comms area emerging over the time. And I'm sure Emily will be looking forward to joining us in the office, because we recruited Emily whilst we're all working in our various offices around Newcastle at the moment. And then finally, Gemma has just joined us very recently. Hannah, who you will know in the power officer role, has moved on again to greener pastures, and Gemma has stepped into that role. Gemma has her own little media company off the side, but is working for us as an employee and helping out with all of the things that we do, the website, social media, connecting up with media generally, and building some of the materials that we send out to clubs to help promote our organisation. So a new team, and thankfully very happy with the support that they've all been giving each other during this particularly difficult time. For those of you who've connected up with us on the internet would have seen that we've rolled out our new website. Our existing website has served us well, but it's been with us since about 2009, and it had grown very, very big. It was trying to be all things to all people and was looking a little bit out of date, as well as being difficult to manage. So we contracted a company that does a lot of our design work, Gasoline, who's produced what we think is a fantastic website. It's focused very much on the public, promoting our organisation. You'll see that on almost every page there's little potted stories about the impact of our association, things that clubs are doing, things that we've achieved at a district level, news that is about our organisation and what it does. Because the internet is a very visual medium, of course, the website focuses very much on the images, and we're always on the hunt for great, fantastic images that sell our organisation. It's responsive, so that means if you look at it on a tablet, or if you look at it on a phone, or if you look at it on the PC, you should get a good impression of the website. Finally, it's easy to maintain. It's built on the WordPress platform, and between our new webmaster, Malcolm Qualtrough, myself, Gemma and Elise, it's very easy for us to keep it up to date and current. You'll probably notice there might be a few things missing that you're expecting to see there. Some of those will return, and if there's something you're particularly interested in, please let us know. But our goal with this website is to keep it very clean, very bright, and very easy to manage. So we're looking at different ways to do things. A couple of interesting things you might notice on there, you'll see under the home page there's a new Find a Club map. So it's a clickable map where you can plug in your postcode and you can find the local Lions clubs that are there at that postcode. There is that at the international website, but we think this is a little bit easier. There's a great campaign page for the 75th anniversary, which can give you some information about what we're trying to do and materials. And there's a whole lot of interesting stuff, so please take some time to have a look. We've been focusing very much on getting an e-newsletter out to clubs on a regular basis. In the early days, our Lion magazine, before my time, came out once a month. Then it came out once every 2 months, then once every 3 months. And of course, now you know, the hard copy magazine comes out every 6 months. So we needed to find a tool that we could keep in touch with our members around the country and share that important information that's useful and important to clubs. So we came up with the e-newsletter. It started as a monthly enterprise, but it's now coming out as a fortnightly enterprise. The e-newsletter groups together notices of interest, and we wanted to do that because we don't want to be emailing clubs every day. So you'll get a newsletter, it'll come out. Please do have a look at it and click on some of the banners of areas that you're interested in, and they'll open up and provide you with some more details. At the start of the Lions year, we subscribe your club to the e-newsletter, but some club secretaries unsubscribe. Now just remember, if you unsubscribe from the newsletter, we can't resubscribe you. So you need to ask your club secretaries to maintain that subscription, and they can on-forward those links to every club member. Of course, you can subscribe as an individual Lion, and we've got about 2,000 subscribers, so they'll just come into your inbox every couple of weeks, and you can read for yourself information that can keep you in touch with our organisation. What we're also doing once a month is we're contracting with our Lion magazine editor to do feature articles exploring in detail some really interesting stories about the organisation. So please do subscribe and please do take a look. There's a subscribe link on our new website. One of the other things that we've been doing in COVID is to try and help members stay in touch with the organisation and to communicate and to share, is running a series of webinars. So shortly after our unfortunately postponed Adelaide convention, we were lucky enough to have a webinar run by the Australian of the Year, James Mukey, about his campaign to reduce the sugar intake of Australians and obviously to combat diabetes, which was fantastic. We also had a webinar about our Lions Alzheimer's Foundation and the really important work they're doing to find treatments and hopefully ultimately cures for Alzheimer's disease. Most recently, we had our webinar about our club building program, which was helping you to find out the work that we're putting into helping your districts and your clubs build new Lions clubs. And finally, Service from the Heart that you'll see on the screen, which was a webinar about great examples of service activities being conducted by clubs at this moment, even with COVID. We want to keep that going, even if COVID means that we can meet more frequently in person, because it gives us the opportunity to meet as Lions around Australia using this fantastic tool. Club building. The multiple district is very focused on building new Lions clubs. Of course, it's very important to try and rebuild the clubs that we have and keep them functioning and well, but we know from lots of evidence that the only time we grow as an association is when we grow new clubs. So there's two key initiatives that we're supporting to build 60 new clubs over the next 3 years. Firstly, we are acknowledging acknowledging those clubs and districts and individuals who are working to build new clubs through the presentation of Melvyn Jones Fellowships. So we think it's a really important thing for our organisation to do, and over the next 3 years at conventions we'll be acknowledging those individuals and clubs who are doing the good work of creating new clubs. Secondly, and importantly, we're providing financial support. So the multiple district made a decision last year that what we're going to do is support up to 25 sponsor clubs with financial support. So the system, and we can provide you with the details, but the system very simply is that if your club sponsors a club in a neighbouring community or in your own community, and if you can sustain that club each year for a period of up to 4 years, there will be financial support for your sponsor club multiple district dues. Now, of course, there are conditions attached, but basically what will happen, you have to keep that new club going for a year and a day, and then for the next 3 years, we will rebate you, your sponsor club, your multiple district dues equivalent to the number of members that are sustained in that new club. So equivalent to the number of members, up to a limit, I think, of 25. Now you have to keep that club, that new club, of having more than 15 members for that period, because we need to keep that going. But it means that if you're a club that's interested in building other clubs, you can end up getting a significant rebate on your multiple district dues for that period. Why are we doing it that way? Well, firstly, we're not providing financial support to the new club because we know that as Lions, we've got an obligation to pay our dues. And we don't want new members to think that they can have a dues holidays and suddenly decide they don't want to be a member in that first year that they have to pay dues. Secondly, we also know that one of the key things to keeping a new club going is strong support from their guiding lions and strong support from their sponsor club. So we want our sponsor clubs to have some skin in the game to support that new club. And you'll see that last line there. What is a new club? It's a gift for your community. It's a gift for your community that can last years and years and decades, just as your own Lions Club is a gift for your community. And of course, we have our 75th anniversary being celebrated next year officially in September, and that was the date of the formation of the Lismore Lions Club, the first club that was created in Australia. So we want to do something impactful and simple for our anniversary. Firstly, we've got our campaign, our Always campaign. That's not a change in the motto, but it's a campaign that we're focusing on for our 75th anniversary, and it says that Lions has always been here and always will be here going into the future. We would obviously like your local club to find a way of celebrating in your local community. That might be a dinner, it might be a mayoral reception, it might be a party somewhere in your local community, because it's an important milestone to celebrate. The most important thing we're looking for some clubs to do is to develop a display, a floral display of the Lions emblem. So we know that some botanic gardens, some great horticulturalists, and we know that some local governments are excellent at planting out floral displays. And we want to say if we can get at least 100 clubs planting out the Lions emblem somewhere in your community, hopefully to bloom, subject to climate, somewhere around the September. Because we think that the planting out of a garden is a symbol that we can all recognise. It's a symbol of growth and it's a symbol of hope. So we would love to see these gardens spring up everywhere, and of course when this happens we want great photos of your Lions clubs around these floral displays that we can promote to the media and on social media. Now some clubs may find this a challenge and may instead choose to do something else in terms of a local community garden or raise some sort of display in another way, but we would love to see some really good goes at planting out the Lions emblem. And of course the other thing that we would like you to do is to promote it through your community. We've got some resources on our website like these banner designs. They're banner designs that you can simply take to your local printers or Officeworks and have them printed out, so you've got a banner display. There's some of the samples there as well. And remember too that in Perth next year, our multiple district convention, the gala dinner and the convention will celebrate 75 years, and it'll also celebrate another important anniversary. It will celebrate 60 years of Lions in Western Australia. So it's an important milestone and we hope you get behind us. The other thing is, and I apologise you can't see the Zoom backgrounds here on my screen because my little computer is too tired to run these screens, but we provide these free Zoom backgrounds so you can show our brand and the Always logo sitting behind you. There are probably, I think we've got about 8 or so different designs, and what a great way to show the brand when you're having your Zoom conferences and have all of these great banners appear behind you. If you'd like those, just email the office and we can provide you a link to have those banners appear for you. Of course, COVID is happening, and we are trying to provide some advice to clubs and to districts about how to manage it, but remembering, of course, that the situation is different in each state and the situation changes from week to week. The very most important advice is look after each other. This is a time when we have to come together as an organisation. We have to look after our communities, but we have to look after our own members, because we want to make sure that when we're able to move out again into the community, that our Lions are there ready to serve. So think about your Lions, think about how we keep in contact of those who may not be as mobile as the moment and how we keep them involved in our organisation. Risk management is an issue for all of us. We need to think about things like social distancing, we need to think about hand washing, and we need to think about masks and those sorts of things. Again, there are rules in each state that guide some of these things, but we also need to exercise our common sense as well. In a lot of cases at the venues that we use, for example, if we do barbecues at Bunnings, they'll tell us what we need to do. But for Lions controlled events like our meetings and like some of our markets, we need to work through that process to be as safe as we can be. Always go to your government websites to look for the right sort of information. Don't look for it on social media. Masks and vaccine, we've seen some inquiries about, what Lions have to do about policing mask wearing and policing vaccine passports as they start to emerge. We need to be cautious about this because we can only do things where we've got a legal entitlement to do it and we don't infringe on people's privacy. So my advice is we've got to be excellent role models and follow all the rules ourselves. We should never challenge a person about mask wearing unless we've got a legal right to do so. And don't forget that in most cases, if you have an exemption, you don't have to prove that you have an exemption. We've had some issues with clubs challenging people and asking to see their exemptions. We'll leave it to others to police. The same will be for vaccine passports, unless you know, maybe as a venue manager, that you have a legal obligation to do so. And be kind. Be kind to our communities, be kind to each other, and look after ourselves. So, I've got my COVID haircut. I know I have less hair these days, so it's not as obvious. But I am waiting to get back and see Jake the barber and have a bit of a trim. COVID for us is the generational challenge for a lot of younger Australians. We'll have Lions in our midst who have gone through world wars, who have gone through global financial crises. We may even have some of our members who have memories of various depressions over the years. But this is the generational challenge for our organisation, and we've got to be aware of that and how we respond to it. We have to, not be hard on ourselves and recognise that despite how well Australia is generally doing, there are significant impacts. I would like our clubs, when they meet in person or by Zoom, to think about how will our world change? How is our world going to be different after COVID? Now, COVID isn't going to be over next year. Things will relax next year and more relaxed in the year after. It's going to be with us for a while. But what are the lessons that we need to take away with us for our world? And hopefully some of those will be positive lessons. One of the lessons for our organisation is that we must get together, we must be together in person, but when we're not together in person, we have got these fantastic tools and ways of communicating with each other. So take some time at your club meetings to think about how the world is going to change and how you can be of service in that new world. And I would also say, think about the big relaunch. Now, as we move back into the community as Lions, we ought to think about getting out there strongly and reminding our communities why we are there. So that also should be a matter for your club meetings. Think about how we're going to launch ourselves out there, but perhaps not start again, but perhaps reinvigorate our service to the community. So thank you for the time that you've given me today. I do hope to see everyone again, and I do very much hope to see us all in Perth, and I'll just go back to work. See you later.
Thank you, Lion Rob, for what you have brought us up to date with. I am sure that all Lions attending will have information to take back to their clubs and make plans for their future. Once again, thank you and stay safe.
Hello everyone, my name's Kate McBride and today I'm here to speak to you about the Murray-Darling Basin and a few of the really exciting things that I get to do through my work and involvement with the Murray-Darling. Before I begin, I would like to pay my respect to the traditional owners of the country on which we're all spread out over today. I'm currently in Adelaide on Kaurna country, but I always, when I do an acknowledgement of country, pay my respect to the traditional owners of the country which I come from, the Barkindji people out in Western New South Wales. The culture that they've shared with me and taught with me has been really fundamental in what I do now. And even though I'm in Adelaide, I always wear my Darling Barker sand around my neck. So who am I and why am I here speaking to you today? I'm a 5th generation farmer from out in Western New South Wales. I'm also a researcher at the Australia Institute, so I focus on rural issues, but also Murray-Darling, of course. I'm a Healthy River Ambassador, so I do a lot of work with people from all across the basin advocating for a healthy Murray-Darling Basin. I'm a board member in something called Local Land Services out in Western New South Wales, and I'm also a uni student studying a Masters in Global Food and Ag Business, so I keep myself very busy, that's for sure. So to give you a bit of an indication of where my passion comes from, how I got involved with this, I suppose I've got to take you back to home. So home for me is a 500,000 acre sheep property out in Western New South Wales. It's called Tolano Station and it was started in 1851. It has an incredible history of one of the largest fleets of paddle steamers in the Murray-Darling. It used to be a whole township, so there used to be about 200 to 300 people living there. There was still photos of towns and pubs and schools and absolutely everything. So it was a really bustling hub. Today, when I refer to the Darling River, which is where Tolano is situated on, I'll be calling it the Darling Barker. Now that's incorporating the Barkindji name for the river, the Barker. And so Tolano is actually situated on the lower Darling Barker, so we're below the Menindee Lake, so a really important part of the system. And we're really sort of the end of the Darling Barker system, but within the southern basin, so a big connection to the Murray River as well. So I'm sure you're all very aware of the Murray-Darling Basin, but it's a massive, complex system. It takes up 14% of Australia. Of course, it includes our food bowl, really critical area, of course, around the Riverland. 3/4 of our irrigation actually occurs within the basin. And what makes it really complex is we've got 4 states, as well as the ACT, situated within it, which makes managing water really complex. But the important thing to remember is that there's a critical environment, that's an ecosystem that relies on the health of it, and there's 3 million people rely on it for drinking water, including Adelaide, which is where I am now. So I'm not going to go into the policy or legislation because that's not fun for anyone, but of course we had the Basin Plan that was enacted in 2012, and that was an agreement between the states and the Commonwealth that we were taking too much water from this system and we needed to return water. There's a number of ways of returning water. A lot of the research I do with the Australia Institute actually revolves around how we're returning this water and whether we're doing well enough at it. Of course, we're not, and we're well behind schedule of actually returning that water to the basin. But it's really important that we get cracking because the Basin Plan actually is finished in 2012. Apparently there's going to be a Basin Plan 2.0, but we're well behind water recovery and our ecosystems are suffering because of it. Now, part of the issue there is because the Basin Plan has become very political and we've got a lot of vested interests. Now, of course, everyone's got a vested interest when it comes to water. We all rely on it for our health and many people rely on it for farming, myself included. Of course, we use it for we have a stock and domestic licence, which means we can use it for our stock in our households. We don't do that anymore because of the insecurity that the lower Darling Barker has seen in recent years. We've actually removed our need for the Darling Barker, which is really sad. But just because we don't need to extract water from it doesn't mean we're going to stop fighting for its health. So that's what I do now. So I mentioned the Menindee Lakes before. I don't know if many of you guys have been up there, but it is just the most extraordinary part of the basin. Right now, they're actually more than full. So they've been supercharged at the moment, which is pretty rare to see. But it is absolutely incredible when it does happen. The bird life, the fish life, absolutely everything just explodes out there, not to mention tourism when we don't have COVID cracking out there, which is pretty upsetting at the moment. The Menindee Lakes are a natural lake system. They had some works done on them in the 60s, but they're really important. And I think one of the important things to remember when it comes to the Darling Barker, but then the Murray as well, is because the Darling Barker we don't have locks and weirs, it's not as regulated. It's really important for fish breeding. Now, our native fish, they actually need those highs and lows within a river to trigger their breeding and like spawning and everything like that. Of course, the Murray River, we don't see that anymore because it's so regulated with our locks and weirs. It's actually really well suited to carp. So these Menindee lakes are critically important for you guys as well. 80% of the golden perch within the whole Murray-Darling Basin actually come from the Menindee Lake. So it just shows how important they are. But they need protection. Right now there's projects on the table from the New South Wales government to actually decommission these lakes. They say they're inefficient, they evaporate too much, and we need to get rid of them. This just can't happen. These are a natural lake system. They're critically important. I've just highlighted how important they are for fish breeding, but a lot of migratory birds use them. They are just critically important. They're known as the nursery of the whole Murray-Darling Basin, so we need to be protecting them. So get on board and understand what's going on out there, because this does affect the people of the Murray River as well. So what happens when bad management occurs is this. I don't know if many of you remember that viral video from back in 2019 of the two blokes in the Darling Barker River, photos just there on the screen, holding dead Murray cod that were up to 80 years old. Now, I actually took that video. That's my old man in the red shirt. And it was one of the worst days of my entire life, seeing just millions of fish dead, just blanketing the Darling Barker, the place that I'd grown up, this place that's critically important to me, to the Barkindji people, to our whole community, just like death. It's something that's going to stick with me forever. But that's what happens when we put irrigation before the environment and we're not protecting these low flows when they're coming through. Of course, the other thing that we see, and we have seen a lot, unfortunately, in recent years, has been dry rivers. The lower Darling Barker in particular is not meant to go dry. We do hear, a lot of stories of further up the Darling Barker, it did have its highs and lows and it had ceased to flows. Of course, we're not saying that at all, but the lower Darling Barker actually never had a no flow event or ceased to flow event that lasted more than 2 months before records began. So what's going on in recent years is not natural. That's why we saw these mass fish kills. You think about these Murray cod, some of them are 80 years old. They've lived through drought. They've experienced this before. What's going on isn't natural, and we really need to be making sure that we're looking at this, managing our water properly, but also making sure that enough water is in our system. And there's so many impacts when it comes to over-extraction. I'll speak very shortly about the township of Wilcannia, which is near where I'm from, the cultural impacts, fishing, tourism. It impacts sustainable agriculture. We see this. I work very closely with irrigators on the Murray River because of the unsustainable extraction that's occurring upstream at the moment in the Northern Basin, up in New South Wales and Queensland, is actually impacting their allocation levels. So they're struggling downstream because of allocations occurring upstream. And of course, environmental impacts. So, of course, there's a lot of cultural issues on a dead river. I spoke about the Barkindji people just before and the knowledge that they've given me. These people are the people from where I'm from, out in Western New South Wales. Their name literally means river people. Barkindji means river people, Darling river people. They are so connected to their country and their water that we actually see impacts on their life expectancy when we don't have water flowing. Now, it's a pretty well-known fact in Wilcannia, when this river is sick and not flowing or dry, that life expectancy decreases and crime rate increases. Now, the life expectancy already for a female in Wilcannia is 42 and for a male is 37. Now, this is worse than African countries. And we have it in our own backyard, and it's because of the connection to country. It's because when the rivers are sick, they can't take their young out and show them culture. It is a real social issue that's happening out there. And the simple fix is just add water and manage it correctly. Recognising Aboriginal legal rights to access and manage water is the key to addressing the unfolding ecological and cultural disaster on the Murray-Darling. Now, we had an elder say that a few years ago, but I think it's true now more than ever, that we need to be looking at cultural flows and empowering Aboriginal people within the Murray-Darling Basin to manage some water, not just for environmental purposes, but also so their communities can survive and thrive. Badger Bates, who's a Barkindji elder in that photo there with me, he's taken me out and shown me culture. And he says, when they take the river away from a Barkindji, they take our blood. And when the land is sick, we're sick. Now, this highlights just that real connection to country. And I think the thing is as well that, you know, we see this in the Aboriginal communities, but we also see it in the non-Aboriginal communities. I see what happens in my communities, non-Aboriginal and Aboriginal, when we have sick rivers. And what that does to the social fabrics of these towns. Of course, we have the ecological factors. For too long, I think what we've been doing is treating our rivers like pipelines or irrigation channels, and they're not. The floodplains are critically important, getting floodplain watering over them. Of course, we have 30,000 wetlands across the basin, and there's about 16 that are internationally significant. So, you know, it isn't just a river, and we can't be treating it like this anymore. We need to be really protecting these important sites, and that means returning more water to the river. They say at least 50% of water is removed from the river these days, and that actually increases during times of drought when irrigation, of course, needs that water just as much. We're seeing downstream at the Murray Mouth and Coorong the damage that's happening along the Coorong, but also the fact that since 2015 there's been dredges going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to make sure that that mouth remains open. Now, a critical part of the basin plan, really like an indicator of how well we're doing, was the fact that they wanted 9 out of every 10 years to be dredge free, that we didn't need them, that enough water was flowing out the mouth to actually keep our system going. And I think we often hear, you know, the downsides of why we're just letting water out to the ocean. But as someone that's come from up at the Darling Barker and now works down in South Australia and has been taken out there by locals, I realise now just how critically important that is. Speaking to Aboriginal elders from down this way as well, if we don't allow that water to go out, then our whole system is going to be in real trouble. It's millions of tonnes per year of salt are actually expelled by making sure that our mouth is open, and that's why the dredges are there. But we need to be returning water so that the dredges don't need to be there, that it can be a healthy functioning system without man having to do things. And of course, we see fish kills, algal blooms, but the importance of flows to native species as well. We have a lot of social issues, and so I spoke just before about the cultural issues in the township of Wilcannia, but as I mentioned, the issues are much broader than just that, or much broader than just an Aboriginal issue. Rural mental health is really affected when we have times like this, and of course a lot of the time we see droughts occurring at the same time. We need to be supporting our rural and remote people and making sure that we're managing our water properly, and it's not just sort of, you know, a tick box exercise of consultation or, you know, people in Sydney offices deciding what's going to happen out there. We really need to be engaging these people out there, because not just that they have the knowledge, but also they're the ones that are impacted by this. The river really does bring people together during times of hardship. I've seen it myself. When the river goes dry, our friends stop catching up. When the river's healthy, we spend summers together down by the river, and it really is that time to check in on your mates and go, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? When that river's taken away, you don't get that anymore, and that's really impacts on, you know, suicides and mental health out that way. And particularly during that last drought, we saw it. And of course, when the river goes dry, we see the same thing. But there's really as well, there's added stress for the property owners too. That's our boundary at Tilano. The Darling Barker acts as our boundary. So, you know, all of a sudden we have a number of paddocks that we can't use anymore because the river isn't there. So, you know, that's just a small impact, but it does impact on not just your business, but also how you're managing. And during tough times, you don't need these added weights on your shoulders. It actually surprised me to realise that fishing, according to government stats, employs 10,000 people across the basin. So it's critically important. Often I think what we do is we say, you know, it's irrigation versus the environment, but it's not really. It's over extraction versus everything else, because if we're not allowing our rivers to flow and be healthy, all of these other aspects, whether it be communities or fishing or tourism, are impacted. So yeah, fishing employs 10,000 people. There's 46 native species of fish. across the basin. And I mean, I think all of us have gone out with like parents or friends or family and gone out fishing. And, you know, I'm no fisherman or woman, but, you know, it's still something fun to do. And I think it's a really Australian thing to go out and try and, you know, catch our Murray cod or your golden perch, or I think callop, whatever it is we call it down here, or meant to call it. You know, it's really a part of Australian culture, and if we're not protecting this, then, you know, our kids aren't going to be able to do that. And of course, tourism as well. I actually used to work for Murray River Walks out in Renmark a few years ago, and so that's what really got me involved in the environmental side of this, understanding environmental water and how important it is. So tourism's worth $8 billion a year to basin communities, which is about the same as irrigation as a whole. So it's like, it's competing with it. And yet we don't have tourism on a dead river. We're seeing that out in Menindee and Wilcannia along the Darling Barker. When the river was dry, tourists just didn't come out because it's a dry desert that no one wants to see. Whereas now that we've got water in these lakes again, in the Menindee lakes, as soon as COVID sort of opens up and allows people back out there and, you know, our communities are protected, it's going to explode and it's going to bring so much life back into these communities. And, you know, 18 months of drought and floods and fires and COVID, everything's been thrown at people from rural backgrounds in particular. We need to get behind them, and going out and saying Menindee is a perfect way to do it. And of course, as well, with COVID the way it is and people not being able to go overseas at the moment, there's a real demand for people engaging with their natural resources, but also getting out and seeing Australia, which I think is absolutely incredible to see. But as I said, there's no tourism on a dead river, just like there's no fishing on a dead river and there's no culture on a dead river. So what I've done in recent years and what my family and my community have done is we've really become activists. It's amazing to see, you know, all these people from the bush all of a sudden, you know, on like speaking at Senate inquiries or parliamentary inquiries. And, you know, we've really got to know our stuff because we've had to, because we've felt like we were left out there alone for so many years. A lot of us have had media appearances, so I've been on Q&A a few times, Australian Story, the project a fair bit. So I've gone from someone that absolutely hated the spotlight, didn't want to speak in public, let alone on national TV, to someone that does it semi-regularly now, which is exciting, but at the same time, it's sort of like there was this like necessity to do it. It's not because I wanted to, it's because I had to, because we had to stand up, because I saw the complete collapse of our communities. I am writing endless submissions. So last week I put in 2, and we also work with politicians a lot. So both at a state and federal level in New South Wales and South Australia as well. That's a lot of my work now, is going and speaking to politicians and trying to get them to understand the complexities of the Murray-Darling, because it's really a hard thing to wrap your head around. But what we've seen, and, you know, often when I do these talks, there's a lot of sad stories about dry rivers and horrible things, but I've seen our townships get galvanised, especially when it comes to our Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal communities within townships. We now work together like absolute clockwork. It is incredible to see. Again, horrible that it was born out of this necessity to actually do it, but it really has created this real sense of community. We've worked with incredible networks, people not just all over Australia, but around the world at times as well. We've started a Talano Station Facebook page, which now has about 30,000 followers, which is really incredible. And we've made it through a really horrible drought as well. So it's been a pretty tough couple of years. We've been doing this for years, but it really kicked off after that mass fish kill in 2019. But yeah, it's been a pretty wild journey, to say the least. And I love what I do now, but you know, we've still got a long way to go. We haven't seen those real fundamental policy changes that are going to, you know, right now there's a lot of water in the basin, which is good because it's easy to share when there's a lot of stuff around. But when water becomes scarce again, we're going to be in the same position where we're still seeing mass irrigation occurring further upstream, and the lower Darling Barker and the Darling Barker as a whole is going to suffer. And that's something that's pretty scary. And it's why I continue to do the work that I do. So how do we solve these problems? Like, there's no silver bullet, and this is a hard thing. I wish I could tell you, yeah, this is what we've got to do and that's it. But unfortunately, it's not like that at all. I touched on cultural flows, and I think that's a really important thing for fixing a lot of social issues within the basin. These people have 60,000 plus years of knowledge on how to manage this water, and that's one element of it, managing that water. But I also think trying to give some water back to these communities and actually allow them to get some economic benefits from it as well. Whether it's just growing some vegetables for their townships. I see how hard it is to get fruits and vegetables in Menindee or Wilcannia, so I think this is a really important road that we need to go down. The current federal government offered a year or two ago $40 million to recover some water, and now they're backtracking on that and they're not doing it. They're going back on their promise. So holding them to account is really important. I think the most important thing when it comes to our rivers in Australia is connectivity, making sure that we have flow occurring downstream before we see mass extraction occurring further up. So one way to achieve that is through flow and storage targets. So saying, okay, before we can see floodplain harvesting or any big, large form of extraction occurring at the top of the river, we need to make sure that there's enough flow at the bottom of the Darling Barker, and then some of those pumps can go on at a sustainable level, and that's the most important thing. But yeah, those flow targets and also storage targets in places like Menindee to make sure that we have drought reserves for our communities and can keep them going through tough times. But yeah, the environment and people need to come before irrigation. This cannot just be an environment versus irrigation anymore. As I said before, this is over extraction versus everything else. And we really need to get behind this idea that environmental water is a good thing. We're not trying to destroy rural towns by doing this, but we're actually supporting them, because by returning water back to the river and allowing that to flow downstream, we're helping these towns like Tilpa and Louth and Wilcannia and Menindee and Pooncarie coming down the Darling Barker. And of course, that comes down into the Murray as well. We need to fix this over allocation. That was the whole part of this Murray-Darling Basin plan, is to realising that we're taking too much and we need to bring it back to sustainable levels, which they've dubbed the 1994 cap. We're still well above that. We're still taking too much water. So we really need to be making sure that we are listening to that Murray-Darling Basin Plan and Water Act and bring it back down to a sustainable level. And we need to put science before politics. And that's something that, particularly with the Basin Plan, we saw it was essentially like hijacked. The CSIRO pretty much said that's not a sustainable level that you set. And now we've sort of set this target and we're not even going to reach that. So holding our politicians accountable and making sure that we're supporting real scientists when they say that this isn't enough water, but it's the bare minimum. And I think it's an important thing to remember the fact that the Basin Plan was a compromise. It was a compromise for the environment. It was a compromise for irrigators. We all wish there was more water in the system. Simple fact is there isn't. And so the deal that was set at the Basin Plan to return a certain amount of water, we need to be holding that. So this is the part where usually if we were live and you're listening here, I'd say, are there any questions or anything like that? Unfortunately, due to COVID, we can't all be together right now, but I have put my Facebook up there and my Instagram, so get in contact. My email is kate@tolano.gmail.com. So, if you've got any questions, you want to get in contact in any way, feel free to send me an email or call. Sometimes I'm out at the station if I'm not chasing sheep around 500,000 acres, and I'm generally pretty easy to get onto. I can't wait to hear you, and I hope that in the future sometime we can all come together and post-COVID world will be great. Thank you.
Perth invites you to discover the sparkle as they host the Lions Australia Multiple District Convention May 6th to 9th 2022 at Crown Perth on the Great Eastern Highway. This year we celebrate a number of milestones: the 70th National Convention, 60th anniversary of Lions clubs in Western Australia, and the 75th anniversary of Lions Australia.
Conventioneers, I am very pleased to welcome Dr. David Parkin, OAM, to share his story. David has been involved with Australian football at the elite level since 1961 as a player, a coach, a fitness advisor, administrator and a media commentator. In that time he captained the 1971 Hawthorn Premiership and coached the 1978 Hawthorn, 1981, 1982 and 1995 Carlton Premierships. He is a life member of the Hawthorn and Carlton football clubs and the AFL. In 2002 he was inducted into the AFL Hall of Fame and in 2010 in the Sports Australian Hall of Fame. A parallel career in education saw him teach in primary, secondary and tertiary institutions. From 1962 to the present. Currently, he is adjunct professor at Deakin University in the School of Exercise and Nutritional Science, having received an honorary doctorate in 2013. A prostate cancer survivor, he has written and presented extensively on the topic of children in sport, men's health, coaching, leadership management, motivation and teams. David is the patron of the Mailbag Foundation, an organisation that seeks to raise funds for much needed specialist equipment and service to reduce the incidence of prostate cancer in rural Australia. It uses Postie motorbikes to build awareness and raise funds for targeted outcomes, including the recent installation of a transperineal biopsy machine at the Riverland General Hospital. David will issue a challenge to men and those who support them.
Well, it's great to have you as a guest at our Lions convention, David. Now, many of those watching will probably recognise you as that tough AFL back pocket player who played over 200 games for Hawthorn, kicked 20 goals. This is all during the 60s and 70s. And then you went on to coach clubs in Western Australia and also for the AFL over the next 30 years or so. But today you're here to offer a challenge to men who and those who support them regarding an important health issue, and that of course is prostate cancer. Now I understand that it's the most commonly diagnosed cancer in Australian men, but it doesn't really get the attention it deserves.
No, I think I agree with that statement, Rob, wholeheartedly. I probably like to remind people at the start that my work beyond footy, and I think I'm the last coach who was part-time, so I thought at least a serious occupation as well, and wouldn't allow my players, Rob, to just be full-time footballers. I forced them down tracks, and at the time they weren't very happy, but I can assure you now as I communicate with them, and they tell me the things that they're doing now, on the back of the road we forced them to go down other than their football. So I was fortunate enough to be able to become a primary teacher, who then went on and did a diploma of physical education at Melbourne University, and then went across to WA and did my degree in physical education. And I guess my interest really in education is around that physical activity and the health aspects of it. I'm one of those very lucky people, Rob. I chose my parents well. I got what I would call a good education, both primary, secondary and in tertiary. In fact, I've remained healthy despite the little time I had with the disease we're going to talk about. Lived in Australia, and I guess like you and I, we've lived during the best period of Australian history. So I'm a very thankful person. I don't have any negativity about my life. But then I picked up the AFL record from the game on, I had to go and buy it because I didn't go this year, obviously. Second year in a row, Rob, that I've missed out. I haven't been there since 1949. But I picked up the record and I was interested. This would be read by lots of people. On page 78 in the corner, Rob. Very little corner is prostate cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer in Australia. With your support, you can give men longer and better lives. And it's got the lovely ex-Footscray player, whatever his name is, that's terrible. Is that Bob Murphy? Bob Murphy is heading up that article. But that's about the sum total of what is it, the focus or the interest in it. And I'm really annoyed that, and I know there's a lot going on in the world, Rob, and I understand this is not so critical, but for a cancer which is so common and does, as we know, kill so many men, it's unbelievable in comparison to what women have done, Rob, in terms of breast cancer and the number of breast cancer nurses that are around the country and doing a phenomenal job. And we've got about 18 or 20 male nurses or female nurses working in the area of prostate cancer. I just don't get it. And it's because men have been so slow, Rob, to, take up the cudgels and do what they should be doing.
So how difficult is it to get the message out to the men to look after their health?
Rob, I did maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I went to Warrnambool to speak at a men's health night at the RSL club. And it amazed me. This reverberates in my head off. 120 men turned up. Well, 120 people turned up to a men's health night, 40 of them women. I got a bit agitated. And I said, "Madam, why are you here?" She said, "Because he wouldn't come unless I brought him." Oh, I've lost a bit of bloke. I said, "What sort of a weak bastard are you that you won't, you do what you should be doing?" So I stood the men up. So we've got 80 men, 120 in the audience, 40 of them women. We've got 80 men stood up. I said, "Sit down if your father's still alive." Well, it was an older audience, about 20 sat down. So I've got 60 men left standing up. And I said, well, how many of you know what your father died of? One bloke up the back said, "What if you don't know who your father is?" And another fellow said, here. So we had 2 that were obviously didn't know, had no idea. I said, well, if I'd be getting on my bike and using every avenue possible to find out who my father, you might have already done that, but who my father is, because you're likely to follow the same pathway. And there were more than half of those people, that's the men in the audience, Rob, who had lost their fathers and had no idea what their father died of. And I thought in this day and age, that is quite unbelievably stupid. So the first thing, my first challenge to all the men that are maybe watching or listening to this tonight is, if you haven't done something about it, go and get the test that's required for a start. Well, no, at least find out what your genetic history is and the kind of pathways that you're going down just because of the way you chose your parents.
And particularly if that death was from prostate cancer. Can you tell us a few facts about prostate cancer?
Rob, currently, and it hasn't changed all that much. What really annoys me, Rob, is that the statistical analysis is very similar now than it was 18 to 20 years ago. All the research has been done, all the knowledge that we have, all the treatments that are available. 1 in 6 Australian men will be diagnosed, still, 1 in 6 will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. 1 in 32 still today, Rob, will die from prostate cancer. In this last 12 months, in 2021, by the time this year's over, more than 3,000 men will die from prostate cancer. And it's the leading, I think I'm right in saying this still, it's the leading cause of death in men after lung cancer. So prostate cancer that spreads beyond the prostate gland is still at this point in my knowledge incurable.
So do we know what causes it and how can it be treated?
Well, it's a good question, Rob. There are lots of theories now, and there are lots of people doing an enormous amount of research to find out about what causes prostate cancer. In my understanding, is still not really known. But the risk of family history, men over 50, and some dietary factors, apparently including what you would call high intake of animal fats and proteins, they all might contribute. The research is starting to suggest that. A patient, Rob, that is diagnosed with local prostate cancer has not spread outside the gland, has a dilemma. In fact, what pathway do we go down? There are right now 2 forms of treatment. One of the 2 forms of surgery, or the other radiation therapy. Often, I guess, which I did, watchful and waiting monitoring of the PSA test is probably a pathway that most men who eventually end up with prostate cancer have to do something about it. But for so much, we still don't know about the disease, but we know that once it reaches the advanced stage, Rob, currently we do not have a cure for it. So a lot of debate about PSA testing and the best methods, I reckon, of treatment, but I'm basically alive because from 40 I went and got my test done because I knew we think our grandfather, my brother is a doctor, I think our grandfather probably died of prostate too from the evidence that we have. But our dad certainly was diagnosed and he made the decision not to do anything about it. And he died, Rob, I watched him die over a 3.5-year period in obvious pain and suffering, and I'm not very good with pain. And I saw what it did to my father, so I thought, well, this is not for me. So having that family history, I did the diligent surveillance from 40 years of age. I had both the PSA, the blood test, which is a simple one, and I used to do the digital rectal. And the funny story is there, Rob, that my GP is still a very close friend of mine, Phil Pearlstein. He was the football club doctor at Carlton, a little man with little fingers, and he didn't find anything when he did the digital rectal. He was doing it all the period of time that I was doing the surveillance. But I can tell you, when I got to the urologist, Tony Costello, who was a 6'3" ruckman with very big fingers, he found he found immediately the lump which Phil couldn't find. So there's a problem with the digital rectal examination, is that some people have the long fingers and some don't. So you may or may not say. So the digital rectal has become very secondary now. I don't think many doctors do that. But in my case, Rob, from July, December in 2008, that's not what's that, July, August, September, October, that's 5 or 6 months, my PSA doubled. And that went from something like 2.3 to 6.1. It was really very high. So I had no follow-up from December the 21st, 2008 until the end of February 2009. My GP gave me an absolute serve for not doing something about it. The biopsy had what's called an 8+ Gleason score, which is very high. So I had to make up my mind which treatment I was going to have. And Rob, if you go to a urologist that's got the machine, he's not going to tell you to go and have therapy. My bloke has just bought a couple of $1 million machine. So I went down, and pleased I did, I went down the radical robotic prostatectomy. And to be truthful, Rob, I'm alive, well, cancer-free. And a decade plus later, I'm living, truthfully, a very normal life.
Well, that's good to hear. Now, obviously, research into prostate cancer and treatment options costs money, and you're involved with an organisation, interestingly called Mailbag Ride, mail spelled M-A-L-E. Can you tell us a bit about their activities and the fundraising they do?
Rob, I'm pleased you did. Look, the mailbags have become one of the central focuses of my my life. In late 2012, I received a phone call from one of my ex-Deakin students, a fellow called Tony Clayton, and he was inviting me to become the patron of the Mailbag Ride, which was happening from Perth to Melbourne. And I didn't know anything about it, never heard of them, and he ran me up because I was looking for somebody who'd been down the prostate cancer pathway, and they could use me as a patron. And we rode from Perth to Melbourne in March, got to get this right, 2013. Tony had a close mate, Julian Dewan, and they planned this on Posty motorbikes, Posty Honda 110 motorbikes. Would you believe I've still got two of them, and I ride them all the time, and I fall off all the time, they're not very good. But we end up riding from Perth, Rob, to Melbourne, and we went down south via Esperance and Ceduna and through to Adelaide and across to Mount Gambier, and we finished up at the MCG, would you believe, at half-time of the game very appropriately, between Melbourne and the West Coast. And we were able to ride our bikes around the MCG and that. So I was initially part of the support crew. I was going over just to be a part of it and do the speaking at the functions that we did on the way, because we visited Australia Post offices all the way across the country because they were our major sponsor. And so we talked to the staff, the males, particularly on the staff. So having got there, I borrowed a Posty bike, went and convinced the policeman to give me a learner's plate. So I rode my 4,600 kilometres with the other 24 guys on a Posty bike with a learner's plate on the back. So it was a great thing. And what we've done since, Rob, and this is part of the reason, I suppose, for being now, is that until COVID came along, we had ridden somewhere in Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia, and in Tasmania over the past 8 years, and have raised now well in excess of $1.5 million. And I'm really proud, and I brag about it, Rob, because we don't take easy. We pay nothing to anybody. You pay for your way to go, and every single cent of that $1.5 million has gone towards the initial $500,000 we gave to the Prostate Cancer Foundation of Australia. We're still not sure what they did with it, so we got a bit annoyed. That's why we set up our own foundation. And we've now purchased these machines, transperineal biopsy machines they're called. I got to get this right, Ballarat, Bendigo, Bairnsdale, Warrnambool, Wagga, Griffiths, Dubbo, Geelong last year, Mount Gambier also at the end of last year, and now hopefully with everybody's assistance that might be part of this, we hope it for the Port Augusta hospital and area as well. So what is it called? I think the Flinders and Upper North Local Health Network. That's a bit much for me to get my mouth around. So whilst COVID has held it up, we hope it's sometime soon, Rob, that we can get back on our bikes, which we love it. I must admit, they're a fabulous group of 20-odd blokes who come from all walks of life, absolutely committed to it, but we have a hell of a lot of fun and get enormous amount of enjoyment of doing the rides and raising the money and talking to people about particularly men's health related to the prostate problem that exists in our community.
And you're getting help from community groups along the way?
I've been terrific. There is no doubt that we couldn't have survived without particularly groups like Lions have been the most supportive group. Rotary have been very helpful too. A number of others have supported us along the way. And without the community groups, Rob, we couldn't survive. So we're very thankful. Lions have been terrific in this, and I'm just so sorry that we can't do as we planned and come over and spend tonight, because I know the convention, and I've been to a couple of them now over the years, and they are phenomenal institutions in Australian society, and I should thank them. Because the chance here to thank them, not only for what we hope they're going to do to help us, but what they've done for the communities of this country. I can't think of another organisation that has done as much for the Australian people as Lions have done.
Well, thank you, David, for sharing your story today, and the important message, of course. It's certainly a wake-up call for a lot of us. And finally, can you summarise this challenge that you're issuing to us today?
Well, yeah, I know I get a bit agitated about this, Rob, but I just implore men to get, even if you don't have any obvious signs, and I didn't either, get yourself tested regularly by your doctor. It's a simple blood test. It costs you nothing. And if you notice anything unusual with your health or your bodily functions, tell your male friends and families to do the same. So get on your bike, look after yourself. Instead of being dragged along by some other person, usually a female in your life, get off your backside and do something about it. And for the ladies who'll be listening, I'm sorry, ladies, but you know how dumb we are as men. It probably comes over to you a lot of the time to encourage or convince is probably the word that's better at, convince them to get up off their backside and go and get a regular checkup. I would say, even good as new, every 12 months you should be going and doing a full medical, including your prostate with a blood test.
Thank you, David, for your thought-provoking presentation and challenging to us to take care of those we love.
District Governor Darrell and would-be conventioneers. My name is Bob Radford, and I've been given the privilege of conducting this memorial service for our district this year. Before commencing though, I'd especially like to thank all the work and expertise that Ryan Rob Winter has put into the recording of this service. I also acknowledge the assistance of my fellow club members from the Noarlunga Morphett Vale Club and others who will honour deceased members on behalf of clubs that are unable to be present today. In honour of the contributions made by the deceased members, the district is to make a sizable donation of $500 to the Australian Lions Foundation. This donation will add and contribute further to the legacy they have left us. I have specially chosen this place on the edge of the Onkaparinga River for two reasons. The first is that it's beautiful, and the second is that as this river flows to the sea, the water is transformed while it remains water to change from a river into an ocean. This is not dissimilar to how when our lives end here on earth, we are transformed to live on in the memory of our loved ones and friends, and depending on your beliefs, live on in heaven. Therefore, as tributes are placed in the flow of the river today, they signify that our thoughts and prayers go with those who have passed in the last 12 months as they make that transition. From the Barmera Lions Club, Lion Rob Toddy Todd. Toddy joined in 2003. He served as President 2006-07, Vice President several times, Safety Officer, Maintenance Coordinator, Facebook Coordinator, and he was regularly seen in the van cooking donuts. His lasting contribution was in the establishment of the RV park at Bruce Oval. Toddy was a great Lion who embraced our motto, "We serve," and we will miss him all. From the Batunga Country Lions Club, Lion Aren Venk. Aren was a driving force behind the club's fundraising and work in the community. With his local knowledge and contacts within the district, Aren and his club built fences, paved verandas, constructed garden walls and did other jobs for people who would in turn support the club by way of donations. At shed sales he was in his element, wheeling and dealing, as well as supporting the many barbecues at clearing sales. Until ill health last year, Aren contributed to the fundraising of many thousands of dollars for the causes the club has supported. The township of Macclesfield and the surrounding district have many examples of his building acumen, particularly stonework, much of which he constructed at no cost. Aren and his family were very generous, well known for fostering children for Anglicare and for providing them with the best in clothing, education and care. He was the self-appointed Batunga Lions lead on many barbecues over the years, and he supported the club in his last days by giving directions and advice at the 2020 Macclesfield Bike Show just before he went to hospital. He was a forthright man, always prepared to say what was on his mind, but always with the best of intentions, as behind the tough exterior, he was a very caring and thoughtful man. Aren was a loyal, honest, supportive and hard-working line and community member who is and will continue to be missed by many. He left behind very big clogs to fill. From the Berry Club, Lion Bev Francis. Bev was a teacher and was well regarded by her students, so much so that many of them would always send their regards to her. She met Neil, her husband, in Waikerie, and they married in 1969. As a partner, Bev always supported Neil in Lions, and she joined herself as a member in 2005. And she was involved for many years in the Driver Reviver program. She held the position of secretary for a number of years, and she was presented with an honorary life membership in 2015. From the Blackwood Lions Club, Lions partner Margaret Granger. Margaret was the supportive wife of John, and she especially assisted him with computer programs in his role as treasurer. Lions partner Tony Prezaka. Tony was also a supportive wife of Gary, and was her carer for many years. Lions partner Jan Hodson. Jan was the wife of deceased husband John, who was a member for over 50 years. She assisted him in the running of the lowest shed at the Bargain Centre. And I have personally known Jan for many years myself, as John was a member of my club when I joined. And I have witnessed firsthand the great support that Jan gave as a partner. From the Brighton Lions Club, Lion Peter Wah Stone. It's a special story, this one. Peter suffered polio as a small child and was abandoned by his birth parents because of his disability. As a result, he was an orphan in Vietnam, who was eventually resettled in Adelaide. Sometime after that, he was adopted by the Stone family, and he lived in the Adelaide Hills and grew up to be an angry and confused young man. After realising that he was in a downward spiral caused by the drugs and alcohol he was using to dull his pain, he made a deal with his God to get him off drugs, and if so, that he would dedicate his life to service, which he subsequently did. After several years of relearning the Vietnamese language and customs, he founded the Company of Grace to build a school to teach the young disadvantaged and disabled self-confidence, useful work skills and independence. During this time, Peter became a member of the club, which has assisted in the building of the school by providing funding for employment training, equipment and practical support. Peter achieved his original goal and was moving on to provide the Home of Grace for abandoned babies and young children when complications from post-polio syndrome claimed his life this year in April. His legacy, the Company of Grace, has been left to his wife Hein and a dedicated group of friends who share his dream and will continue according to our code of ethics. From Broken Hill, Lion Chris Barrett. Chris joined the club in 2018. He attended projects and functions when he was able, had a joke for all occasions, and he is missed by the club. From Hahndorf District's Lions Club, Lion John Entwistle. John was a life member with 51 years of service to his club. He held many positions in the club and as president. He served on cabinet as a zone chair and a deputy district governor, and he was awarded a Melvyn Jones Fellowship. In the Lions Club of Iremple, Lion George Gersten Mayer. George was a dedicated Lion for 44 years. He was a charter member of the Lions Club of Mildura Working Men's Club, later renamed the Mildura Deacon Club. He was also the founding member and guiding lion for the Iremple Lions Club, which he transferred to in 1985. During his service as a Lion, George initiated and was instrumental in the building of facilities such as the Mildura Racecourse Kiosk and in the club rooms shed. He also championed activities such as the wishing wheel for the blind, Christmas cakes and Meals on Wheels. George was a life member of Lions International and he was awarded a Melvyn Jones Fellowship. Also from the Iremple Club, Lion Peter Bryce. Peter served with the distinction as Secretary, Treasurer and President of his club on several occasions. He was also the Leo Club Advisor for Sunraysia Lions. He served as a zone chairperson on 3 occasions and as the Leo Club's development chairman. He served the National Leo Committee representing the C districts and as treasurer of the MD 201 convention in 2010. He was awarded a Melvyn Jones Fellowship. From Kangaroo Island, Lion Wayne Veach. From Karoonda District Lions Club, Lion John Waldridge, Willie. Willie is remembered as a long-serving and hard-working lion who served as club president on many occasions. He also served as a zone chairman, and he'll be missed by his fellow club members and also lions around our district, as conventions won't quite be the same without Willie and Kath being present. From the Keith Lions Club, past District Governor Lyle Bartlett and Lions partner Joan Bartlett. Lyle served his club for 44 years, twice as President, Zone Chairman, Regional Chairman, and he was awarded a Melvyn Jones Fellowship. He was loyal, committed, compassionate, humble, and a great communicator with an equally great sense of humour and a big laugh that nobody could forget. There's a big man who left a lasting legacy. Lyle will also be remembered throughout the district as a lion who would rarely use notes when speaking or performing official roles. In all of this, Jane supported Lyle and worked alongside him for the club in a manner that would put many lions to shame. If you're ever lucky enough to be a guest in their home, you would have enjoyed the very best of hospitality over sometimes very long nights, as I can attest. Litchfield Lions. Lions partner Judy Smart. Judy was a willing volunteer for all functions. She has provided invaluable support to the Secretary and Treasurer and the club for the last 15 years. She will be missed by all. Mannum District, Lion Ramon Lay. Ramon has been a valued member since 2010. He very capably managed the club's recycling program, which is its major fundraising activity. His good nature and ever-present sense of humour kept us all entertained. From the Marion Club, Lion Jim Howden. I've known Jim for a long time. He's been a member of the Marion Club for many years, and before that he was a member of the Seacliff Club until its closure. He has served in many club positions and on president on a number of occasions. I wish I could say a bit more about him. From the Marion City Lions Club, Lion partner Trevor Creek. Trevor was a much-loved father and grandfather. He had a passion for golf and amazing skills in carpentry. He was a kind and gentle soul who would do anything for others, and he loved his family dearly. From the Moorbeen Lions Club, Lion Colin Springer-Leek. The Moorbeen Lions Club, Lion Triton Luthman. The Moorbeen Lions Club, Lions partner Rhonda Luthman. The Moorbeen Lions Club, Lion Ivan Doring. And the Moorbeen Lions Club, Lions partner Dan Sedgman. From the Millicent Lions Club, Lion Lenny Teagle. Lenny served our organisation with great dedication for over 53 years. The Millicent community is a better place thanks to Len's generosity, unselfish giving of his time, humour and means. His sense of humour, his unconditional giving, goodwill and consideration to the needs of others are qualities appreciated by all who knew him and benefit both directly and indirectly from his care. He started his business with one truck. He built it to be one of the most successful in the southeast. The members of the club will always remember Lenny with great affection and respect. Len was a life member of the association. In the Lions Club of Millicent, Lions partner Ellie Lane. Ellie gave loving support to her late husband Ron through his 50 years of membership, and likewise to her son Peter and his 29 years of membership. Ellie continually over the years collected photos, newspaper clippings and any other form of information concerning the club and its members. And as a result of that, the club now has a valuable documented record of its history that is an archive of significant importance and a true legacy of Ellie's devotion. From the Mitcham Lions Club, past District Governor David Kame, PSM. David was a long-serving and most respected Lions member. He served for 19 years as the Chief Executive Officer of the Citrus Board of SA, and his legacy to that industry is exceptional, and I would like to be able to say a bit more about him than that. I'm sorry I can't. From the Morgan District Lions Club, Lion Peter Roosh. Peter joined the club in 1983 in December. In 1984-5 he held the position of Secretary. 86-7 and 2007-8 he held the position of President. He transferred to the Barossa for a few years in 1988, where he held different positions before rejoining Morgan in 2002. He was an active and valued member and always held one position or another. In 2009 he resigned, but he rejoined again in 2014 and then held the position as membership chairman until 2019. And he will be sadly missed by all. Nan and Districts, Lion Les Walker. Les served as a Lion for over 10 years, many of those as secretary of his club. He lived by the motto of our organisation, We Serve, and Les was a returned serviceman and an active member of the RSL. In the Redcliffe Lions Club, Lion Laurie Phillips. Laurie served with distinction over 50 years, both in his club and for the district, in roles as zone chairperson, site conservation and diabetes awareness. Laurie is one of the first Lions with Dr. Bob Coulthard in this district to be actively involved in championing the LEAP project. He was the convention chairman for the multiple district in 2010 in Mildura, and Laurie has been recognised for his service with the James D. Richardson Award, a Dr. Harry Jenkins Fellowship, a Melvin Jones Fellowship and a Life Membership. Laurie's time on Cabinet he thought were some of the best years of his Lions experience, and he valued the friendships he made there. Earlier this year, past Governor Bob and Kay Jewell spent 2 days with Laurie in his home, and they remember Laurie being so well organised in spite of having yards of tubes trailing along behind him from his oxygen pump as being the very perfect host. Bob also remembers, as do many of us, a fabulous man a wonderful lion who will be missed by everyone who knew him. When they were younger, Laurie and Marge were runners-up in the Australian Ballroom Dancing Championships held in Melbourne and have always enjoyed to dance. And today he's been honoured by past District Governor Bob Jewell, who has remained friends with him and Laurie for many years. From Renmark, Lion Bev Strike. Bev became involved with the club as a volunteer for its catering committee. For several years she was more than a capable contributor to this particular part of the club. And then in 2019 she decided to become a member, and she remained dedicated until her untimely passing this year. From the Tintinara Club, Lion John Grouch. Also from the Tintinara Club, Lion Keith Judd. From the Lions Club of Wattle Range, Lioness, Lion Faylene Arney. Faylene was a charter member of the Millicent Lioness Club. She was a newsletter editor for many years and a tireless hard worker. She was also a charter member of the Lions Club of Wattle Range, Lioness. Wollonga District's Lions Club, Lion Ray Moore. Ray transferred as a member to the club soon after its charter in 1969, and he was a very active member, including being its president for many years. He attended several Lions conventions in those early years. Work commitments, however, drew him away from the area, and that reduced his involvement in later years. But he continued his membership and attended whenever he was able. Ray's widow Peter has been and still is a very active member of the Ladies Auxiliary. The Lions of the Multiple District 201 and of the International Association will now have flowers placed in their honour. In closing, I would like to read a poem written by A.J. Stanley. Think of me as one at rest. For me you should not weep. I have no pain, no troubled thoughts, for I am just asleep. The thinking living me that was, is for now forever still. And life goes on without me now, as time forever will. If your heart is heavy now, because I've gone away, dwell not long upon it, friend, for none of us can stay. Those of you who liked me, I sincerely thank you all. And those of you who love me, I thank you most of all. And in my fleeting lifespan, as time went rushing by, I found some time to hesitate, to laugh, to love, to cry. Matters it now if time began, if time will ever cease. I was here, I used it all, and now I am at peace. Thank you.
And so another convention comes to an end. Please contemplate the words of the various speakers and how they impact upon your club and your community. Remember with tenderness those members who have passed, and cherish the service that they gave to their community. I'll leave you with the words of the International President, Lion Doug Alexander. Service to others is the rent we pay for the space we occupy on earth. I always believe that we have a purpose here in life other than what we can do for ourselves. By serving as a Lion, it gave me an opportunity to make a difference in our community and the lives of others. Until we meet in Naracoorte in 2022, stay safe. Cheers.
It's funny, I've got two groups that I'm, I guess, the patron of. One is called GOX, the Gentlemen of Kokoda, and we walked Kokoda about 20 years ago because we all had fathers who'd fought in New Guinea. It was a lovely group. We're all taking our sons, Rob, you'd laugh at this, but 12 of us got our young blokes, we started to train to walk Kokoda. The boys were smart enough to pull the pin after about 3 months. They said they had better things to do in their lives. We had to go out and round up another 12 blokes, which we did. We got 24 in the group, and all had a connection with Kokoda, and we walked Kokoda, and that group has stayed together. And we got the Larapinda track organised, but we haven't been able to get away for it. There's had 3 attempts, but we walk somewhere in the world each year, and that's been a wonderful group. And we raise money mainly for the boys on the track in New Guinea, so we've helped out with tribes there. My other group, I'm going to talk about is I talk about the Mailbag Foundation, where we ride these silly postie motorbikes all over Australia, and that's one of the better things, I've been a part of in my whole life. It's just been one of those things that happened. No, I think you're doing the same thing, guys. I'm not Rotary or Lions or anything like that, although I do a lot of work for both. Feel good in making the world a better place, I think. You know what I mean? It's I've been absolutely privileged. So I'm very happy, probably like you, to put a bit back in.